Hi everyone, can I encourage you to start sitting down so that we can start on time? Thank you.
My bag? Where is my bag? Can you just, somebody get my bag from there?
Allô? Allô? Sawa ariko nageze kuri pano sawa. Yego.
Hi everyone, good morning. My name's Keris, or perhaps good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. My name's Keris, and I'm the focal point of the Farmers constituency. And I'm really honoured to be here introducing this very first global farmers market. We really like to thank the Capacity Hub team for this opportunity because this is the first time the entire farmers constituency in this UNFCCC process has come together in one event. Because the constituency is hugely diverse. We have farmers growing crops, livestock, pastoralists, we have foresters, aquaculturalists, we have the smallest farmer to the largest farmer. We have tenant farmers, landowners, and our constituency also includes agricultural NGOs supporting farmers on the ground. And so this concept of a global farmers market is sadly not an opportunity for you to taste the marvelous products that our farmers produce on their farm. But it's how we think about farmers markets. So these are often an opportunity not only for farmers to connect with their customers, but also for them to talk to each other, to share experiences on what's going well, what hasn't gone well, to identify information gaps. And that's what you'll hear today. You'll hear farmers from across the world, from almost every continent, addressing these key solutions, gaps in their knowledge. So we're going to have 3 panels of farmers addressing mitigation, adaptation, and means of implementation. We've aligned this with the global stocktake because we think agriculture is part of the solution and part of the solution to encouraging parties to be more ambitious to meet the climate challenge. At this point, I'm going to hand over to Tina, who's going to moderate the first panel. Thanks, Tina.
Thank you, Keris, and welcome to everybody. This is the first of the 3 panels. This will be partly in English and partly in French. And we'll give the floor to all the panelists to tell who they are, where they are doing farming or where they support the farmers, and to say what are their key messages to the audience. Donc, cette partie de Forum des paysans sera une partie en français, mais je vous souhaite bienvenue. Je m'appelle Tina Uvio, je travaille pour FFD, qui est une agri-agence qui promeut les organisations paysannes. Mais ce n'est pas à moi à parler, je voudrais donner la parole aux paysans. Nous avons ici 5 producteurs ou représentants des producteurs. Et je vais prendre une personne à la fois pour faire le témoignage. I will now ask the panelists to speak. There are 5 from different continents, and they will speak on behalf of their work as farmers or somebody who's supporting the farmers. I would like to first invite Miss Nandini Azad from India. Could you please make your pitch for the farmers?
Thank you very much. Is this mic working? Yeah? Can you hear me? Or you want me to use this one? Yeah? Hello? Yeah, this is much nicer. Thank you so much. Thank you very much for giving me the floor first. And my pitch is going to be on gender and farming. I want to focus myself on that. My name is Nandini Azad, and I'm going to talk about poor women and cooperatives. That's our work. And I come from India, and I'm very happy that WFO has given us this opportunity in the last 3 years to look at things in different lenses. Thank you so much. My pitch is as follows. And it is not going to be new wine in old bottles, but, to look at, the whole issue of women farmers. Because you see, in many nomenclature in governments and in many countries, the word farmers has always meant men. Over the last decade, things have changed much because of people like you, people like us, WFO, pushing in the whole issue that the strategies required for women farmers are much different in many times from male farmers. Only then you get the best productivity, and as you know that they produce a lot of the food in the world. Now, what I would like to insist and ask you to support us is that we have 600,000 women in South India, and we work in nearly 267 type of enterprises: aquaculture, fishing, agriculture, sericulture, horticulture, name it, and other things, and also post-harvest as well as non-farm activities. What we found during the pandemic is once we organized the women farmers, that they could challenge both climate change as well as food systems by very indigenous and ingenious coping mechanisms. Allow women to think. Let them use their indigenous knowledge, and you will do it. So what I would like to say is, we are not here to talk about rich and poor nations and who's bargaining with who on conditionalities. We are here, the Working Women's Forum and the ICNW. We have given about $5 billion, all poor women on the board, everywhere, buy, for, whatever. And, we are trying to say that poor women farmers' resilience to overcome climate change, we created our own innovative financial structure, not waiting for anybody. Let them come. That's all right. We want that too. Creating strategies for better resilience on their own terms. Again, not conditionalities. And not only are most of the women don't speak English. And, that they think is a big barrier. I don't think so. English is not our native language. So therefore, whatever language that women speak, they talk about women farmers' language, I would say. So to think of climate change without gender and poverty, to me, doesn't, is not so relevant. And I would like the COP27 in all their documents not to forget this particular line, in terms of when they are investing, when they are doing project implementation, or when they are doing action, you must target women in a specific way due to their many roles as women managers, reproductive, farmers per se, marketing. I also want to tell you one incident where...
Thank you, Nandini.
Thank you.
I think you passed your 3 minutes.
Yeah, just one second.
But we got the message. It's about gender and local languages.
1 second, not a minute.
Okay, 2 seconds.
I want to I want to tell you that when we had supply chain disruptions, that was the biggest thing for food systems. Our fisherwomen in many of the coastal towns created their own supply chain, and I'll tell you about it when you ask us a question. Thank you very much for... Sorry for overstepping.
Thank you, Nandini, and thank you for respecting my demands. Now we have the next presenter who comes from Rwanda. His name is Oswald Tuyisenge. I understood that you will speak in French, so please, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Merci beaucoup de nous accorder cette parole. Je suis, comme vous venez de le dire, je m'appelle Oswald Tuyisenge. Je suis du Rwanda, membre du syndicat Ingabo. Ingabo est membre aussi de l'Organisation mondiale des agriculteurs. Nous avons 16 039 membres issus de différentes coopératives primaires qui pratiquent des différentes chaînes de valeur, mais principalement la chaîne de valeur manioc. Au sujet des défis du climat, nous tous nous savons que les fermiers rencontrent beaucoup de problèmes. On ne peut pas dire que les fermiers ne contribuent pas aux effets du changement climatique, mais leur part c'est très minime, mais c'est eux qui en souffrent beaucoup. Donc, ce COP, nous souhaitons que quand même ça donne une solution durable pour que le fermier travaille donc d'une manière favorable et d'une manière durable. Donc, donc pour nous, nos activités en tant que syndicat Ingabo, nous contribuons à la fourniture des agroforesteries, nous donnons des semences de bois, des agroforesteries qui facilitent donc l'atténuation du changement climatique. Et annuellement, nous organisons un événement qu'on appelle Cassava Week. Dans cette Cassava Week, on rassemble tous les acteurs autour de la chaîne de valeur manioc. Et aussi, donc dans la culture du manioc, nous avons aussi essayé d'inventer une technique de cultiver le manioc dans les trous, des techniques of growing in pit. So, avec cette technique, donc peu de produits que nous pouvons profiter, c'est stocké dans ce trou. Comme ça, pendant la saison sèche, notre culture peut en bénéficier, donc utiliser cette eau qui est stockée dans le trou. Comme ça, même dans la saison sèche, vous voyez que votre culture est en bonne santé, si je peux dire comme ça.
Merci Oswald, c'était bien.
Bon, autant on nous a demandé d'être concise, mais les choses à expliquer sont beaucoup, mais merci beaucoup.
You can always continue talking to Oswald and also Nandine afterwards. Oswald was saying how much the smallholders are already suffering about the effects of the climate change, but farmers are already doing a lot, and he was explaining how they work with cassava. But I will now ask Marcel Grolot, the president of Agricor, to take the floor as the Canadian farmer. Please, the floor is yours.
Merci Tina. Alors, je suis producteur agricole au Québec, la partie francophone du Canada. Le Canada est un très, très grand pays qui s'étend de l'Atlantique au Pacifique. On a connu des inondations records dans les dernières années, autant dans les provinces atlantiques que en Colombie-Britannique, sur la côte atlantique. Des feux de forêt sans précédent. On a subi la tempête tropicale Fiona récemment, qui normalement, c'est des choses qui n'arrivaient pas. C'est un ouragan qui a frappé la Floride et elle était encore une tempête tropicale rendue au Canada. C'est des risques beaucoup plus grands pour les producteurs et les éleveurs. Donc, au niveau des moyens, ça prend des assurances agricoles adaptées aux risques qui augmentent pour les éleveurs et les producteurs. On vit des canicules aussi à répétition, beaucoup plus fréquentes, beaucoup plus tôt en saison. Donc, l'accès à l'eau pour les cultures maraîchères et fruitières est devenu un enjeu déterminant. On a besoin de plus de recherche pour développer des mesures d'adaptation, car la situation change rapidement, comme je viens de l'expliquer. Je dirais aussi qu'il y a un enjeu de communication avec les citoyens pour qu'ils comprennent les conséquences du réchauffement climatique sur leur alimentation. Alors, c'est parce que les conséquences du changement climatique sont beaucoup plus grandes sur l'agriculture que sur plusieurs autres secteurs. Donc, les citoyens ne comprennent pas toujours l'impact sur leur panier alimentaire. Et pour finir, je dirais, on subit au Canada à la fois la pression pour réduire les émissions de GES, en même temps qu'on doit rapidement s'adapter. Donc, c'est des coûts qui sont importants pour les producteurs agricoles. Puis actuellement, l'aide n'est pas à la hauteur des impacts que subissent les producteurs agricoles au Canada.
Thank you, Marcel. He was underlining how much the farmers also in Canada suffer of impact of climate change, and he was requesting more research, agricultural adapted insurances, but also more support for farmers to be able to adapt, and so that we have to communicate better to the great public so that they understand the difficulties that farmers are facing. But now I would like to give the floor to our participant from Chad, Mr. Kolien Palebele, who is also the president of PAFO, Pan-African Farmers Organization. S'il vous plaît, prenez la parole.
Merci, madame, pour m'avoir donné la parole et aussi pour cette opportunité que les organisateurs nous offrent. Je m'appelle donc Kolien Palebele, je suis agro-éleveur au Tchad et je suis le président de la PAFO, la Pan-African Farmers Organization. Pour ceux qui ne le connaissent pas, c'est une plateforme panafricaine qui regroupe environ plus de 48 pays et avec 80 millions de membres répartis dans 5 régions, l'Europa, la PROPAC, EAF, le Sakao et l'Umnagri qui regroupent donc toutes ces 5 régions. Et, pour dire en quelques mots ce que les producteurs vivent, les producteurs africains vivent, nous savons que le changement climatique a assez d'impact sur leur activité agricole. Et c'est suite, par exemple, aux grandes inondations que cela a provoqué. L'exemple est clair au Tchad aujourd'hui. Il y a environ 1 million de personnes qui sont réfugiées. Ils ont quitté leurs champs, ils ont quitté leur maison et ils sont dans la nature. Et là, vous voyez, c'est l'impact direct du changement climatique. Ça a affecté leurs récoltes, leurs champs, et ils sont là. Et vous avez aussi ces changements climatiques qui occasionnent des conflits, parce qu'il y a des sécheresses extrêmes qui ne font plus pousser des herbes, et les éleveurs sont obligés d'aller là où il y a des herbes. Et là, ça crée des conflits entre les deux acteurs. Et c'est ce qui amène beaucoup de conflits aujourd'hui dans certains milieux, dans le Sahel surtout. Et il y a aussi, nous parlons de la montée des eaux que nous voyons, que vous connaissez tous, vous vivez. Il y a le glissement des terrains que beaucoup vivent aujourd'hui dans nos pays. Et il y a la mauvaise répartition des pluies dans l'espace et le temps, parce que les agriculteurs africains, à 90%, sont dépendants des pluies. Et quand il y a mauvaise répartition des pluies, ils ne peuvent pas produire comme il se doit. Et cette mauvaise répartition de pluie a assez d'impact sur la population. Donc la PAFO a essayé de travailler sur tous ces aspects-là et a sorti un plan stratégique qui regroupe tous les aspects pour permettre aux organisations paysannes de s'adapter à ces conditions-là et voir comment on peut renforcer les capacités de ces organisations à la base. Voilà un peu ce que je peux dire en bref, comme on n'a pas assez de temps. Merci.
Thank you, Palebele. And he explained very shortly how climate change is already triggering migration and also conflicts. So PAFO, as an organization, is putting together an adaptation strategy to assist the farmers, and he also asked for more help for the farm organizations. We have now here Samuel Sentumbwe, who comes from Uganda. The floor is yours, Samuel.
Yes, thank you very much, and I'm also happy to be here today. My name is Samuel Sentumbwe. I come from Uganda. Uganda is a small country in the eastern Africa, in the eastern part of Africa. I am not a farmer myself, but I work for an organization that works and supports farmers. It's called the National Alliance of Agricultural Cooperatives in Uganda. I think my colleagues have spoken a lot about the sufferings or some of the things that the farmers or smallholder farmers are going through as in regards to climate change. But for me, I would want to re-echo some of those things and some of the things that I think we should be doing as a country, as a nation, and then also as a community that is interested in seeing the fight against climate change successful. One of the things is that there's misinformation or lack of information. The honest truth is that many of the farmers, the smallholder farmers that we work with, are doing so many activities, they're doing so many practices, but they're not aware of the challenges or the effects that some of these activities are actually putting in terms of the risks that they're posing in terms of climate change. So we need that process of having this information well clearly stated out, and actually a lot of awareness created around that. And then also when we do that, I think we need to innovatively come up with the systems or alternatives that these people are actually supposed to, alternatives in the way they do their agriculture. So there's need for capacity building as far as that is concerned. And then, of course, new things come with new challenges. And then, of course, there is also need for more investments. So if we are to do that, then it also means we also pose a challenge of financing. I think everywhere financing has been an issue. So for the sake of the smallholder farmers, for them to adapt to these new technologies that are more friendly, then there's also need we need to make sure that we have good financing there. Then I think also I'll speak directly to my country or to my government. I think we also need to see a commitment, political commitment from our governments. There are policies that have been put in place at both global, regional, and national level. But then we see very limited commitment from our governments in just ensuring that these policies are actually put in place. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Samuel. And now we have the last speaker who comes from Congo, whose name is Freddy Mumba Mukuba. Please, the floor is yours.
Bonjour, moi c'est Freddy Mumba. Je suis le secrétaire exécutif de la Confédération nationale des producteurs agricoles du Congo, qui rassemble en son sein 500 000 ménages paysans. Et donc, nous sommes en plein travail dans l'agriculture. Et comme nous sommes dans le bassin du Congo, on parle de la RDC Pays Solutions, c'est-à-dire au niveau des producteurs agricoles du Congo, on est en train de réfléchir aussi pour voir comment on peut réduire la pression sur les forêts. Comme on sait, dans la plupart de nos pays, plus de 70% de la population est en milieu rural et vit de l'agriculture. Et donc, si on y va de façon non responsable, on va détruire toutes les forêts avec l'agriculture. Et donc, ce que nous sommes en train de faire, c'est, après avoir constaté quand même qu'il y a des effets du changement climatique, puisqu'il y a la perturbation des saisons, il y a les pluies qui ne tombent plus au temps où on les attendait, parce que les agriculteurs, généralement, quand on arrive, selon certaines zones, quand on arrive à certaines périodes, on sait que ça c'est la période des semis, il faut s'aimer, et là on est sûr que la pluie va tomber. Mais lorsque vous s'aimez et que la pluie ne tombe pas, à cause de ces effets du changement climatique, et donc ça perturbe beaucoup l'agriculture dans nos pays. Et alors, on est en train de réfléchir par rapport à ça, comment est-ce qu'on peut arriver à réduire la pression sur les forêts pour réduire les effets des émissions de gaz à effet de serre dans l'atmosphère. Nous allons maintenant dans les pratiques agroécologiques que nous encourageons. Nous encourageons les agriculteurs à pouvoir adopter des bonnes pratiques, des pratiques responsables d'agroécologie. Notamment, nous recourons à l'agroforesterie, qui consiste à mélanger les cultures avec les arbres, avec les plantes, les arbres, pour que les arbres qui sont sur le terrain puissent permettre la fertilité du sol. Puisque lorsque les gens vont attaquer les forêts, c'est pour chercher la fertilité du sol. Et donc il faut travailler sur des méthodes de conservation de la fertilité du sol. Et avec l'agroforesterie, ça permet à ce que les arbres qui sont plantés puissent contribuer à conserver la fertilité du sol, et ce qui fait que les agriculteurs vont se mouvoir pas beaucoup. Donc, ils ne vont pas beaucoup se déplacer pour aller chercher les nouvelles forêts. Donc, il y a plusieurs pratiques que nous sommes en train d'appliquer, mais ce que nous demanderons à la communauté internationale, c'est qu'on puisse appuyer ces agriculteurs, les accompagner à renforcer ces pratiques d'agroécologie. Voilà ce qu'on peut dire. Merci beaucoup.
Merci, Freddy. Thank you for everybody. Let's give a hand for these farmers. I would now like to ask the panelists to leave the podium. We'll have the next panel coming in. Just as a short summary, I think that all of these people underline that they are already facing a lot of difficulties and they are suffering. On the other hand, they said that they are already applying plenty of methods which are improving their adaptation and resilience toward climate change. They need some more help. They need agricultural insurances, knowledge, investments, and aid. What I'd like to mention as the last thing is that we shouldn't forget women and women's role in farming, and that they need support in their own language. This is a very short summary. Now I give the floor to the next moderator, who is Luisa Volpe from World Farmers Organization. Please, Luisa, the floor is yours.
Tina, thank you very much for the great wrap-up of the first session that was on adaptation. We are going to speak now about the key role of farmers to unleash the potential of the agricultural sector in mitigation action. And I have with me today Dennis from Uganda, Paul Zakaria from Zimbabwe, Kati from Finland, Gasham from Mauritius, and Josephine from Liberia. I will start with Josephine. Josephine, can you kindly tell us a little bit about your experience on what farmers are doing already and what they need and what they could do with more support and more attention? Please, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. And I also want to say thank you for COP27 for giving us this platform. I'm Josephine Francis. I'm the Vice President for ROPA for West Africa, and I'm also the President for Farmers Union Network. We have on our membership about 55,000 farmers in Liberia. Agriculture for a while have been a sleeping giant in my country. And now we're trying to wake up from this sleeping giant to make sure that the challenges that the farmers in Africa, in Liberia, are going through with climate change. At this time in November, we have two seasons. We have dry season and rainy season. And at this time, the smallholder farmers start to cultivate the land to grow maize, to grow potatoes and okra. They cannot do that. And why do they go into the wetland during the dry season? It's because of climate change. And how do they get this help to make sure to support agriculture? We need the farmers are good partners with adaptation. We recycle all our produce. We turn it into animal feed, we turn it into compost, but getting to finances is very difficult. The banks do not understand the language of supporting agriculture. So we need to get that support, a direct support to the farmers, direct support to the farmers' organization, which is very important for Africa. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Josephine, for also sticking to the time, because it's very short. So I will now give 2 minutes to Dennis for sharing his experience with us.
Hello. Good. Yes, Dennis from Uganda. the CEO for the Young Farmers Federation of Uganda. Thank you. One key thing, as a farmer, daily, I do two main things on climate change. I adapt to it, but I also mitigate. Though I might also contribute by producing some greenhouse gases. But oftentimes, fingers are pointed to me as a farmer as one who causes climate change. But most of the times, I'm doing the adaptation and the mitigation. So today, I'm talking only more about the mitigation, where we as farmers are trying to reduce on the release of greenhouse gases in our activities. And this we do by reducing the sources, for instance, more especially into trying to look at new kinds of biofuels, because we are the ones who produce them, especially when you look at the biogas, the use of solar, which is also done on our farms, but more especially in the African setting, the biogas sources. But also, we as farmers are trying in mitigation by trapping or absorbing these gases. All the work that we do, we are trying to pull the carbon. We are doing the agroforestry. We are trying to see that we have crops that trap all this. And so we are also trying to promote the sustainable use of the land and in all our good agriculture practices. So what I would want to see, and I would thank the COP27 for having the first global farmers market, is to have safety net as a farmer. We need these, especially in terms of climate financing, which is important, but this financing that is easily achievable to the farmers, not in broad, not to only big companies and all that, but to the farmers. Then also, we as farmers need collaborative partnerships that leverage on the opportunities for all of us, not for the few. And lastly, we as farmers will continue to be very aggressive in terms of determining our destiny, and that is why we have also managed to penetrate the COP. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Dennis. You raised important issues, especially regarding the carbon farming. And on this, I also would like to give the floor to Kati from Finland. I'm sure she has something to say on this.
Thank you very much, Luisa. I'm Kati. I'm a farmer and forest owner in Finland, in a very Nordic country. I'm going to speak from my own farm point of view. We produce grain, both winter and spring crops, oilseeds, peas, and grass, and also, well, depending on the year, other crops as well. And as already taught in the agricultural school, we are respecting soil and soil health. And already in my agricultural school, where I started in mid-90s, our teacher taught us the carbon cycle. So that's the basis of our agriculture and our cultivation. It is the soil and the soil health is very important, both from mitigation, but also from productivity point of view. We have variable crop rotation in our farm. We choose which plants we cultivate in each field according to the field's characteristics, the rotation phase, the weather and weather forecast, and also available technology what we have in the farm. It's not changed very quickly. And also, of course, the market's points of view. What does the markets, both input and the product markets, look like? We use, for example, catch crops with our grains to catch the nutrients. A couple of years ago, we expanded using these catch crops due to the environmental support scheme from EU, which encouraged farmers to do that, and of course, encouraged by the advisory. We use organic fertilizers whenever they are available, but also mineral fertilizers are very important, and we use them according to the soil nutrition status, which is analyzed every 5 years from every field. And we plan every year activities in the field carefully according to what is the stages of the fields. For example, what kind of weeds there are and so on. Also about the forest management.
Can you wrap up?
Yeah, a few words about the forest management, as we also have forest. The forest management is planned also carefully, and we update the forest management plan every 10 years with the experts from our local forest management association. And well, sustainable farming and forest management, it requires good planning, advisory system, and research. And I think also it's worth to mention that in Finnish, these forest management associations, they are creating a voluntary carbon market system from the forest owner's point of view. So it's really reliable, and it's benefiting the farmers and ensuring incomes, because also incomes are important. One more thing I would like to mention is the Finnish farmers created the climate roadmap together with research organization, which is the best what has made in this world so far. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kati, and sorry for pressing you on the time, but it's not on me. Paul, it's now your turn to share with us about your experience in Zimbabwe. 2 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Luisa. From Zimbabwe, I represent the Zimbabwe Farmers Union, and very quickly, the first thing that we have seen happening is that we have raised, through the Farmers Union, we have raised in collaboration with the relevant Ministry of Education, we have raised awareness of climate change impacts and effects. And we now have school-based programs that are helping us to catch these farmers whilst they're still very young, so that we raise the awareness on issues that would require mitigation strategies. And as a result, we have also managed to get the schools' curriculums reviewed so that agriculture becomes one of the key subjects that are taught at school, bearing in mind the issues of mitigation and adaptation. Secondly, the issues of energy efficiency and the use of renewable energy. These are very critical, and we have already started working on these, solar and biogas and many others. Thirdly, it is the sustainable land use, which is paying critical attention to the need to protect our wetlands and to also ensure that our forests thrive. And then in there, we are seeing a lot of massive tree planting with levies that are being charged on agricultural marketing activities. And then what do the farmers need? Farmers would require policy support. So in other words, governments must actually bring in that support that ensures these things continue to happen. Financial inclusion, this is very critical because all these mitigation strategies would require financial resources. And also on the farms, that's my last point, on the farms, markets must perform. Farmers must see that they are making money. Otherwise, they have no business being on the land. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. I think you touched base upon some points that really make all the farmers of the world on the same line as a common ground. So Gansham, it is now up to you to tell us about the Mauritian situation.
Thank you, Luisa. I am from Mauritius. I am from the Indian Ocean, and it's a small island. I am also come from a farmer's family, and when I started farming very early in my childhood, we are doing tobaccos. But what I learned is that when my family give me my land, it's different. The way they are farming, we cannot adapt it just now actually, because we are getting lot of problem. The way they are using fertilizer, our soil has degraded, and I have to go for other type of farming with innovation, with new technology. And here I personally experience to develop a model farm where there is a lot of activities where I can get money, because we are a small island. We have not huge amount of land, only 1 acre of land. And there is another problem when the family has 7 hectares, and when it is the family gives the heritage, and it's become less and less, and every time is going less and less. So the land is very important for farmers, because our brothers and sisters do not do the farming the same. They are not interested. So this is another problem. And what we have to do to produce a lot of foods in a small amount of land. So what I have innovation to have to do is that I start doing vertical farming. And there is other problems that the climate change is affecting also our system of farming. So we have to invest in renewable energy. So I innovate because we do on greenhouse. It's the cheap. We can produce a lot in a small space of greenhouse, and this greenhouse I have put a solar panel, 10 kilowatt. So I am producing 10 kilowatt of electricity, which is I'm selling to the CB, and I am earning money. And also I see that we are producing a lot of foods, but we cannot market it the same day, because we have to store it. And how to store it? Because we are in a tropical island, the sun is very hot. When we harvest it and we put it down, it's go dry. It's not the fresh food, and we cannot get the value. So I invented a chill fridge, which is working with solar panel again. So we can put it in anywhere in place, field, and we store it with the temperature, and we can keep it. Because we have to reduce the food waste. This is another concept. There is 30% of food is being waste. This is what I am doing.
Thank you,
also,
Ghansham. Can
just
you
I
wrap
finish?
up
Yes.
on...
And just only to say that for the food waste also, we are doing food processing. But the main point is that to doing everything that we are doing, we are transforming, we are adapting with the climate change, we need fund. And we see that every time when there is FAO is represented, we farmers, we are giving our voice here, but at national level, we are not in the board. So my request is to do FAO, to be on the board. We can at the government level also on the board. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ghansham. Very interesting experience on your side. Mark, from Mauritius to Australia, over to you.
This is tough because Australian farmers talk quite slowly, and you're asking me to do this in 2 minutes, but I'll try to speed up. We farm at Jigsaw Farms, southwest Victoria, which is in southeast Australia. We're known because we achieved carbon neutrality in a large beef and lamb and wool operation. And the way we did this is quite simple. We've gone through a full audit process twice now with the University of Melbourne, with both from an analysis of our livestock greenhouse gas emissions and everything that comes onto the farm, including fertiliser. And we've also then looked at what the sequestration opportunities are to try to sequester some of the greenhouse gases. So that then had to go to CSIRO, our national scientific organisation, and it was peer reviewed, and we've done this twice, so it's very robust data. The way we achieve carbon neutrality is quite simple. We basically planted trees up to 20% of the farm, half down to permanent revegetation, so for biodiversity corridors, linkages, and our bird counts went from 46 species at the beginning now to 174. So it's a positive environmental indicator of amongst others, including water quality improvements. We have salination issues in Australia. And then we also, with the trees, we put in production trees. So high-value saw logs are about half of what we planted, or a little bit more, and they sequester nearly 4 times the amount of greenhouse gases than the permanent revegetation our local native species do, but they're integrated together in the system. So it's a really important story that we'll have an income source from the saw logs. It's a really important story that they sequester carbon, which therefore gave us that carbon neutrality. The other one, which is quite critical for us, is that we are actually financially profitable. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mark, for sticking to the time. I would like to thank my fantastic panelists and call up on the third panel that will be moderated by Caris. Meanwhile, I would like to remind some of the main points that emerged from this discussion, basically the fact that the farmers everywhere in the world are already applying practical and efficient solutions to mitigate the climate change, from planting trees to carbon markets to support the farmers directly. And we have seen also many others. Of course, farmers need farmer-driven partnerships, but also right access to finance and financial schemes that can really support them. I leave the next conversation to the new panel, and thank you very much.
Thanks, Louisa, and all the fabulous farmer speakers we've already had. This is the final panel for the next 10 or 12 minutes. And this is a panel about means of implementation. So we've heard many things that farmers are doing, but also things they want to do. So what might be their financial needs? What do they need from technologies appropriate to their situation? What about building capacity? What are their experiences? And I won't introduce the farmers, they can introduce them themselves, but we cover quite a few continents. So I don't know who might want to start. Katie, perhaps in this space, a story you want to share about access to finance or technology?
Hi, yeah, I'm Katie Milne from New Zealand and I'm on the WFO board. And I thought something that's interesting, one of the gaps that keeps coming up is about finance. And it usually talks to our smallholder farmers in developing nations, but as a farmer market type thing, talking to a farmer the other day, she came into some tragedy and her husband had passed away and it locked up all her finance. So this is in New Zealand. And so it doesn't matter where you are, some of these barriers to access to finance in situations are a problem for us, especially as women. And it was quite a surprise to all of us that that situation arose for her. Gaps on farm for farmers around climate change mitigation stuff. I think we still have some gaps in our monitoring that would be really useful for us to have investment in that area as we go forward, so we can benchmark where we're at and then be able to prove how far we've come. There's a long way we've already come, and we have that at a general sense, but not really on a farm level. And then as mechanisms are evolved to reward farmers for making good progress, they'll actually be able to attain that fairly, and it'll encourage others to uptake technologies and things that have happened that farmers have shown have worked for them. We are already having huge uptake around cow collars and things like that now, and farmers are talking to each other about the benefits of that sort of thing for livestock farmers. That's creating more time for them, and they are making savings in ways they never understood they could. I know that other areas of the world have had them on indoor farming, but we're doing it in the outdoor grass-fed farming now, and it's one of those new leaps and bounds we'll be able to take. Help with activating more efficiently sex semen, because we'll pick up cows in season quicker and better and have a better spend there. It's one of the good climate change mitigation that's happening around home. And it'll take off as farmers talk to farmers about how much benefit they're getting from that versus a salesman coming and telling you. My own experience is hearing it from other farmers, how exciting it is, and looking into that investment for ourselves, whether it's the ear tag or the collar. Thank you.
That's fabulous. I think, I'm sure all the panelists will have similar challenges about accessing finance, but also the value of hearing successes and failures from people that you trust. Delora, as a woman farmer in Puerto Rico, can you share some of your experiences with us?
Yes, good morning. I'm Delora Gonzalez. I am from Puerto Rico. I am a farmer. We have a family farm. We do agroecological farming. We represent La Vía Campesina. It's an international movement of peasants. We have over 200 million members around the world working towards food sovereignty. In our personal experience, we live in an island in the middle of the Caribbean, which means we are vulnerable to hurricanes every year. We've seen more active seasons every year. They can get stronger or more consistent. It has been our case. 5 years ago, Maria struck us real hard. So in our personal experience, we had to literally start from zero. So that's a vulnerable, it's a very vulnerable situation for us farmers to having to start from zero every year. So this means we need direct financial support to our farmers with no intermediaries or restrictions. And when we talk about technology, we as La Vía Campesina recognize the ancestral knowledge and practices as solutions that are sustainable and have been proven through thousands of years. We need more sustainable technology that doesn't replace peasants. We need real solutions that are grounded on the realities, the necessities of farmers around the world. We do not need false solutions or financing through big corporations that don't represent us. We know that agroecology is the pathway to real change and food sovereignty, and is the responsibility of us all, but we think that specifically the global north that has caused the most damage has to accept this responsibility. Thank you.
Thanks, Delora. I think you made some very important points about the difficulty of farmers starting from zero after a crisis, after a weather disaster. And I think the critical importance of local knowledge and of making sure that's not lost, and of making sure that technology is suitable for the circumstances, because we know that every farm is different and every farmer is different. So no one size fits all. Thank you. So now I'd like to turn to my last two speakers. And Sota, I know that you have also in Cambodia struggled to get access to finance. Perhaps you'd like to share your story.
Thank you, Caris. Let me share a short story from myself and my country, Cambodia. I was born in the village where farmer grow rice. Every farmer grow rice. From generation to generation. My grandfathers have hundreds of farm rice, but unfortunately, the country collapsed into the civil war, so we lost everything. We start again in 1979. So I still remain small farms in my village right now. And I also work for the Federation of Farmer Organization in Cambodia to represent a farmer. I am very happy to work with this organization to represent them. And yes, of course, our farmers are smallholder farmers who have land in average 1.3 hectares, and even less than that. About 15% of them have only 0.5 hectares. So, you know, can you imagine that these farmers are smaller and they have a lot of problems and they cannot get access to technologies. So technologies, it is very important at the moment, most other countries, but farmers are aging, they are old, so they cannot use the smartphone. And they also use smartphones, but their smartphone is cheap, not too expensive. So it's hard for them as well. And at the countryside, the rural areas, farmers are not get access to internet to use. So it is difficult for our smallholder farmer. There are some app development to enable a farmer to get access to information from the expert, from the market, from the trader, business people, yes, and also from the side end. But you know, farmers still lack of opportunity to access to that. It is because of the knowledge on how to use technologies is very limited. So that, to me, capacity buildings for young people, women, and marginalized people, and indigenous people, I think very important to ensure that they are preparing today for the next 20 or 50 years. So it is very important. And I think that access to direct finance from development agency or the financial institution like the UNFCCC, it is very important for smaller, so that they can tackle the issues. Because no one can speak on behalf, can speak instead of farmer rather than farmer themselves and farmer organization themselves, because it is not the story of others. So farmers have to speak their story by themselves. And yes, capacity building and capitals. We have a problem, also a problem with the high interest rate for agricultural sector in Cambodia. So you know, agriculture is very risky compared to other sector. So we need direct access to finance from the development agency, from the UN agency or the financial institution with both grant and credit with low interest rate to ensure that they are able to sustain their agriculture. Thank you.
Thanks, Sote. I think you made some very good points which would be common among many farmers. The importance of connectivity, which is difficult in rural areas, connecting farmers to markets and to experts, and also the access to finance too. Ravi, I'll finish with you in the last 2 minutes. Do you have any reflections on what you've heard from the other speakers?
Hello. So finally the notch goes up. Thank you. Thank you. First of all, my gratitude to give me the mic to illustrate about 2 cents of how India goes. I'll not exceed the time. I'll just place the problem in a minute and a half, and I'll place where the area of interest should be in our discussion and in our efforts today. So in India, it's a common secret, it's a well-known secret that we all consume rice 3 times a day or wheat 3 times a day. Our problem is we harvest twice a year. First half of the year, summertime, we irrigate. The second half of the year, we rely on rains. Now the first half of the year, we have cyclones striking India, and that distorts the entire cycle of production of rice and wheat. The production of wheat, because of drought, has gone down from 15 to 50% in a state called Punjab in the last 10 years. So coming to the problem now, you see, how do we resolve that? The loss and damage, the climate finance part of it comes into play yet again. And what are the constraints to climate finance? So my friends sitting in the panel have covered almost everything, so I don't have to be redundant again by repeating the same issues. So the points of constraint we have in India is India, with its vast topography, has to focus on data collection. The data collection is not accurate. It's your data versus my data versus his data versus others' data. So uniformity in data collection is first step towards quantification. The second is actually how do you quantify loss and damage to determine the essence of climate finance, which has to go into the whole remediation process. So quantification, we need a uniform structure to quantify climate loss. And currently what's happening in India is the poor farmer gets caught in the tiff between the central government and the state government, the provincial government and the central government. The revenue department inspects once a year and compensate the farmer once a year, which is very, very insufficient with respect to the many, many damages which they see throughout the year. In terms of financing and bringing us to carbon neutrality, the one constraint we see is either we are fully industrial, the investments are targeted towards a fully industrial scale, or it's in the incubation phase. There's nothing between the two. So we need a well-defined structure to have something between the two in terms of that. And the last constraint, half a minute to talk about technology. The topography is vast. Suppose a good fisherman in Maharashtra, coast of Maharashtra, gets a good catch. How does the central India guys get to know? So we are working towards, our organization, which is called United Farmers Front, we are working towards developing and bringing together integrators who can bring the market and get the market going. So I believe I did not exceed the time, Clarice. Thanks.
That's fantastic. I hope that you've heard from the amazing diversity of voices that our constituency has. I wish that we could also feed you, but I'd just like to hand over to Arnold for the closing remarks for the last minute. Thank you.
Thank you, Kéris. Bonjour à tous, pour dire un petit mot francophone. Salam alaikum for the Arabian speaker, and hello for all the English speaker. A great wish for all of you, as Mark say. When you are English native speaker, if you can speak a little bit more slowly, it's easier for all who are not practicing English so often. Please, that will be very nice. I want to congratulate all of you for the very serious and inspiring story you tell us. And I want really to congratulate and demonstrate to all our partners that we have a lot of example. You have shown that we have example. We are moving. We demonstrate every day that we are mitigate the climate change. We are storage more and more carbon sometimes, and we need adaptation, and we try to adapt. On my farm in Normandy, myself, we plow less and less our land to have the more productivity as possible on our cropland. We are more and more serious in the management of our pastures because we need productivity, and this circular economy between our crops and our animal are fundamental in our system. The circular economy, we do it more and more, and we show the sustainability and the fact that farming is really a solution. I want to just finish by wishing you the best week as possible. Every morning between 8 and 9, you have 9 and 10. 9 and 10, you have only one thing to do: join the farmers' constituency, and after spray the solution, the example, and the willingness of the farmer in this COP. And I am sure that all together you will be able to repeat just after me: we fight for climate mitigation. We fight for climate mitigation. Please, loudly. We fight for climate mitigation. Thank you very much.